Well, that's maybe not a good one. Don't want to take too much. There we
I guess we can't use the ones that say yeah, probably.
Lots of water?
How are you doing?
Good, how are you?
Sitting up here, back there.
Let's start off. And let's meet you. He says, what is that?
Here we go. Are they? I don't
Some of those are empty. That one's got coffee.
Hello, everybody. I don't want to waste everybody's time that decided to be here on time, so we're just going to start. We're not going to wait until 10:30 to make sure everybody's here. So, I'm Doug Command. I'm this year's president of the Lake Superior Area Realtors. I am really excited to see how many of you are here to get information on this potential merger and the subsequent vote that is starting at 1 p.m. today. So first off, I just wanted to talk about a couple different issues that have come up a few times with questions online, just some frequently asked questions. Kind of get those out of the way, and then what we're going to do is just set some ground rules for appropriate behaviors, and then we'll go over some of the documentation, and then just open it up to questions and let you guys take it from there. And if there ends up being a lull and there's some information we want to make sure you guys are catching on to, we'll bring that up, but from there, I'm kind of just gonna let you guys give me your questions. So first of all, I want to talk about why as an association we decided to look into this at all. So every time our contract with Black Knight has come up, it's always been a thought, is now the right time for a merger with another MLS? Never before has the board felt that there was an appropriate time to even consider it. Therefore, it hasn't been brought before the membership like this. With Paragon being a new option as a front-end system, so we would be using that same front-end system, and the option to purchase a board seat, to purchase shares in the company and get a board seat on the North Star MLS, we thought maybe we should see if the membership is interested in this at this point. So we had some membership meetings throughout our region. We had a survey that went out, and it came back that the membership, not overwhelmingly, but a majority of the membership wanted us to explore this option. So we did. That's what we did. So that's what all this documentation is. The board has not taken any position on this whatsoever. Neither has the association. All we've done is get the information you've asked of us. So yes, we are going to be talking really North Star heavy because that's a change. We don't need to talk about staying the same. So the fact that we're going to be talking a lot about North Star is not an endorsement of a merger with North Star. I want that to be clear. We are talking a lot about North Star just because that's all the new information. Staying the same is not new information, so we don't need to hammer both sides like that. Make sense? Okay, so from there, Miranda, do you want to talk about antitrust and being careful about what we talk about right now?
My role today was to be the police, like that's okay, so you guys all know about antitrust, right? Yeah, you know that stuff. We all know that. But just as a reminder, we are a group of competitors here, right? You're licensed to do business in the state of Minnesota and or Wisconsin to sell real estate. So, so are a lot of other people, okay? So today, what we're gonna talk about is how this motion in front of you affects your business, how you do things, your membership here. We're not gonna talk about the other people. We're not gonna talk about the other brokerages. We're not gonna say we need to do something about them, or they are gonna do this, or they are gonna do that. We're talking about you, okay? This is your moment to shine, but we're not gonna talk about them. If I feel like somebody's going down that path, I will stop you immediately. I will cut you off. I will interrupt you. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be rude. I'm trying to protect the association. If you insist on continuing down that path, I will have you leave. Okay? Is that fair? Any questions about that? I'm small, but I'm mighty.
Okay. So, it's attached here, correct?
Oh, I can do that.
The new fee structure.
You just talk.
Okay, so first thing we're gonna go over is the new fee structure, what that's gonna look like with a merger. Do we have a comparison with what I have right now? Yes. So we've got current and proposed. Everybody can make that a little bigger.
Terrible.
So one of the differences you'll see is we are eliminating with the merger single licensee and dual licensee fees. This is because from the MLS, we're all getting the same services, regardless of what states we're licensed in. This is different from an association. We are not merging our association. Lake Superior Area Realtors is still around. It is only our MLS services that we would be merging with North Star. Right now, Lake Superior Area Realtors runs our MLS. This merger would be outsourcing that MLS for our association. Our association fees are still single and dual license fees because there's different advocacy for the different states. So you are getting different services in that. That's the motivation for going to a one fee structure, whether you're single licensee or dual licensee. Can you guys all see the numbers? Is this big enough now? So I don't need to say what those are, you can read them.
Are there any questions on the fees that we've come up with for the budgeting? No. Okay. Oops, yes.
Maybe I'm doing some math. There's a $17 monthly difference. Why is the current LSAR due and the proposed due is only $50 different?
So I think what you're looking at, so there's two sets of numbers here.
I'm looking at the top line for an agent licensed in just Minnesota.
Right, yeah, okay, so let's look at the columns though.
Sure.
So right now, this is what you're currently paying for MLS. This is what you would be paying for MLS. This is the difference between those two numbers. This is your
I see,
annual
okay.
dues.
I was reading that.
I didn't do the math on the 125
Sure.
and 75 for you. Yeah, so that's, this column is what your monthly difference in MLS fees would be, depending on where you land, you know what I mean?
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, one thing that seems glaringly missing is what is it gonna be if we stay the same? I mean, there's the current, but if we made a determination that single user, dual licensed people, agents are gonna be the same amount, what's it gonna be if it doesn't pass?
I'll take that.
I can answer it, but I'll wait until
Yeah.
somebody tells me the answer.
If it doesn't pass, we have to go back to the task force and we have an extension on Paragon. We've got like another year that will be extended, so we have to go kind of back to the drawing board. Figure out if we want to go to a different MLS system. What's gonna work best for our members if it doesn't pass. So it's still up in the air and we don't know.
So really, the fees could go up, I mean, if we are going to a single amount.
They could potentially go up depending on if we then have to re-extend Paragon after that. We have a set pricing right now for Paragon and extension, because it's an automatic. So we'll have a little bit of an increase because that's built into the automatic, but we won't fully know until we have to go another like 2 years or 3 years with them.
Are you going, he keeps saying single paying, but that's not what you're saying. You're saying that if we stay the same, we would still have the Minnesota and Wisconsin being charged separately. We're not going to go single payer.
Correct.
As of right now, yes.
Yes,
And moving forward, if this did not pass, that would stay the same.
until that contract changes or until we have to change because of budgeting or, but for right now, yes.
Your extension
Yes,
director
where?
sets the budget every year. So they have set their budget currently for October 1st, 2019, November 30th, 2020. That's not, so but I don't want anybody to say, oh, we're never gonna change that. Because certainly every year when they budget. However, for your current budget, it has been set at what you see on the screen for the current fees. Next year, don't know. I mean, it could change. I will say from that survey that we sent out, there was, we asked the question, do you think there should be one fee or two? And there was, I wouldn't say it was a landslide, but there was definitely some momentum behind just having one fleet. So to say that the board wouldn't consider that, even if this merger doesn't go through, I think would be incorrect. I think they'll still consider it.
Well, all of us who are licensed in both sides would love to have the lower fee. I just don't, it doesn't seem fair that, we're not comparing apples to apples.
And it's impossible to do that because I don't know the future. Nobody knows the future, and I can't say forever and ever, this is what it'll be like. Here's what I can say, your fees will go up, no matter what, at some point in the future, because. I know that.
True. Yes, sir.
But the same exact thing could be said about restart as well.
Correct. Correct. But if the motion goes through to get a board seat, we'll know a lot sooner because we'll have a potential meeting on that discussion. Yes.
Did you guys find out from North Star historically how often they increase their fees?
I have an email on that.
Well,
I wouldn't say it's a data point.
Did we find out, the question was, we find out from North Star what historically their increases have been in their fees.
Thank you. So they, in the process of going through this, they have actually, as of 2020, they are having a 50-cent increase. At this point, again, the budget we put together is around when there's 50 cents left. I don't know what the board's gonna do with that at this point. If we can make it float or not.
Right.
But I feel like in that email they sent, they said last time that they had updated it. I'll find it. How about you keep talking and I'll find it more recently.
Okay. You have another question that we can take? Yes.
With North, if we go with North Star, are we gonna go under their rules and regulations?
Yes.
So we're gonna have to read their new rules and regulations on how they want to do it compared to the way we want to do it.
Because they don't have the same timeframes necessarily as we do, but they've been very willing to work with us to try and make it, if it is a transition, to make it as smooth a transition as
Here's
possible.
my biggest concern. I was a part of, our company was a part of North Star for a couple of years, and anytime we made an error,
Mhm.
there was no forgiveness. It was bang. And, I don't like that.
And I understand, I am part of North Star and part of Laser. Their process has changed quite a bit in the last few years. It's a lot of auto emails that tells you there's something wrong, if you're missing a photo or you didn't change a status. And they have timeframes in that email. If you make your change and correct it within that timeframe in the email, you don't hear from them again. If you don't, you hear from them again.
So we're not gonna have anybody up here kind of being our buffer to let us know, hey, there might have been a mistake made, and,
It's not our intention or thought process to get rid of our MLS committee, which we could potentially then do maybe agreements to work between the two if you're having issues. We're not gonna leave you guys high and dry and think that there's no way that you can get help from us. Yeah, wait, go ahead, Miranda.
So I've got one thing I'd like to say is that the folks that are listening online, if you're in the audience, if you could speak up, and those of you up front, if you could try and repeat the question so that everybody can hear it. I guess there's a little difficulty hearing that. But to answer Frank's question about who's in charge of fines and enforcement of the rules, it is true that North Star would be setting those fines and rules and doing the enforcement. However, if there's an issue there, we are still your liaison, if you will, between that process. Not the authority, but liaison.
So we would in theory still have an MLS committee here locally, right? Now, if that MLS committee came up with an idea or a rule or something that we want to change based on what our association brought to them, we would essentially bring that to North Star with our one seat at the table, correct?
Correct, so the question was, if we do the merger, we're keeping our MLS committee. If we wanted changes, would the MLS committee then bring that through to North Star with our one board seat? And the answer is yes.
So our power is going to be very limited for any changes we'd like made at that point.
To a certain extent, yes, we're only gonna have one voice.
And how many board seats are there?
There would be
21.
So we have less than 5% of the board.
And what percentage of agents are we compared to that large board?
Right.
6 to 7% is what I calculated. Based on.
I don't know that number. so-
I looked at one of the spreadsheets and it's like 6.7%,
Okay,
including Minnesota and Wisconsin.
okay.
What's the benefit to me as an agent, other than my dues might go up or down?
Great question.
Okay, so Frank's question was, what's the benefit for him other than his dues potentially going up or down?
I don't think that that's something we can determine for you.
Mhm.
We can give the information, but what benefit it is for each of you to determine, because my pros and cons are different than your pros and cons. Each of us runs our business differently, and we have to look at this information and see if there's a benefit, and vote based on that.
What are the benefits?
Yeah, I would like to hear, I would love your guys' opinions or the task force on a benefit that they've come up with.
Not having to be in okay, so did you all hear the question? What is our opinion of?
Yep, I'm looking
Benefits?
for an opinion.
I'm just gonna, not having to be in multiple MLSs is potentially one benefit.
Okay.
But for each company, it's different, yes, ma'am?
I can say for my benefit, I have all the information for all of the homes at one stop. Right now, I am looking in Duluth, I'm looking in North Star. It's pretty bad when I know agents, I go to Zillow first to find all the information because we are in such a area where it's two MLSs. I got McGregor folks coming my way, I got Pine City Hinckley folks coming my way, and honestly, half the offices in Moose Lake belong to North Star, half belong to Duluth, some of us belong to both. So I am looking in multiple spots for one listing information. It's pretty sad when my buyers have more information right at their fingertips than I do. I have to search for the information. My clients do not.
You don't have to.
Yes, let's just shut up.
So carry that over to Wisconsin. What's the benefit now when I start working down, you get down to below Gordon or closer to Hayward? What's the benefit of?
So the question was doing business in Wisconsin, what's the benefit there? I don't know what your benefit is for your business, how much business you do in
Well,
Wisconsin. Would you be able to do more business in Wisconsin because you've got more information?
Do you have more information? That's the question I have. Do we have more information?
Right.
Anybody want I don't know the answer to that. Okay, whoa, hang on a second, Shayna.
I can just say the forum that happened in Ashland Wakefield area, those agents are very excited about it, and many of them are part of North Star because of Lake Superior properties. And so I really seeing in her comments it doesn't benefit Wisconsin agents, and actually does, and they were very excited about the opportunity. And I know other agents who sell a ton of lake properties, and it would benefit them as well.
So
Not
you're getting rid of the
necessarily me.
dual
I'm just giving
MLSs
a
for
benefit
them.
example that I.
So summarizing that, basically it would save them multiple MLS fees
And it would benefit their client.
and it benefits their clients. Yes.
Instead of asking you the benefits, because you're saying that's for all of us to determine, list the features. What's the features?
Yeah.
And we'll determine the benefits.
Here we go. Yeah.
1,200 I have one quick question.
Yes.
What happens to WireX?
We still have it.
Okay, so the question was, what happens to Wirex? We still have Wirex.
Yeah, the North Star MLS actually already provides services for Western Wisconsin Realtors Association. I in this part of Wisconsin.
I'm not quite sure how that's gonna look on the live feed.
So one of the things that when you have a large corporation, obviously there's economies of scale there. So one of the things that North Star can do, not to say that we can't, but not at the price point that we have right now, certainly, can do is offer a more wide array of what they call our core services. Now, this has all been linked out to everybody. I'll run through some, I guess. Realist, Remine, BPP, which is the broker public portal, HomeSnap, HomeSpotter, Showing Time, we already had that, Instant, we already had that. Market Stats, we don't have InfoSparks. Remine, Trust Funds, we've talked about Trust Funds, we don't have it here right now. Drive Time Search. I'll debate, I feel, anyway. I feel like we got waterfront down better. List Track, Wirex is on here, Down Payment Resource, we already have RPR, RPR Review we already have Pro Search, we already have social media sharing, Rate Club we don't have, Safe MLS we don't have, SSO we don't have. That's actually kind of a cool thing where essentially there's like a dashboard that you can log into and all of your little connected services are there. Showing Time, RPR, so you don't have to remember all your username and passwords.
What's the showing?
That is Showing Time, is it not? I
Yeah.
mean, they bought them some years
Did they?
ago. Yes.
Yeah.
And I don't think they're doing both software.
Actually, Len,
Brandon, in regards to the features, would trust funds come with this program,
So
or is that separate?
it's both. And here's why I say that, because the way trust funds is set up is they bill the MLS an amount, they also bill brokerages participating an amount, and they also bill a transaction fee. So is it included? Yes. Is it free? No.
But it's a feature you could activate if you were a broker, did you want
Yes.
to?
Oh, yeah,
A little bit easier than what we could do right now.
No, there would be no problem with our MLS doing it right now. We looked into it, I don't know if some of you remember me asking you, brokers in the room, 3-4 years ago? And I didn't have, I would say I didn't have enough market share interested in it at that time to justify the expense to the MLS. Because of course, we can't just eat all those costs. So you all end up paying for any service that we add. So when there's I get emails occasionally about, hey, you should look into, actually, most of the things on here, I've got an email about at some point about saying, hey, you should look at InfoSparks, you should look at trust funds, you should look at HomeSnap. Okay, that's fine, all those things add money to your expenses on the MLS. So when I say I'm going through these, there's nothing on this list really that we can't offer here on our own, but understand that you can't do it at the current rate that you pay. And it's fine that we go through this. What I will say is it's not possible for our association to offer all of these things at a rate that's better than what a larger corporation can offer. I'll get to you, Frank. So we already have cooperation and then national conversation. Does that answer your question, Alicia? Please check your phones, folks.
oops, I think it's right.
So if
Behind you.
Right, you first, sorry.
I'm a rental agent, I don't use MLS a lot for, sales. But my question is, wouldn't we all have a lot more ability to search all areas with North Star? Can you find anything now on MLS that's for sale in Minneapolis or St. Paul?
Yes.
Is it difficult?
Yes.
Very easy to know.
Okay, if it's in our MLS, it's super easy, you type in the address.
Oh, my God.
But it's the house that's listed right next door to your listing and it's not in our MLS and your buyer says, well, they take their home staff picture and they,
Right.
hey, how come we're not seeing this one? 'Cause it's like my
So you have a lot, you can much
They're not.
more easily find something on Zillow
Walmart.
than you can through RMLS.
We do have
Is that true?
resources linked in our MLS through NAR, RPR, and Find, where we can find those things. Problem is agents aren't doing it.
But let's be fair about that, because show of hands, those of you who are looking for a particular property, whatever it is, how many of you, your first choice is to do 2 separate searches? Who likes doing 2 searches at the same time for the same property?
No.
So what we're talking about here is you can access listings from North Star and other MLSs in the state of Minnesota through SASE, Wirex for Wisconsin, but nobody does it because you're doubling all of your time to do that search. And I mean, like, maybe if you're looking on the outskirts or something, that will be your default, but for most agents, it's not their default to go in and do this separate search.
You do it if you have to.
Do you know if the North Star platform is more mobile friendly?
So I think one of the issues right now with our current system is if we are out and using our phones and somebody needs to look up a property through Find or any other sources on our Paragon, it's very difficult to see anything.
Okay, so the question was, does North Star have a better solution for the mobile capability than what we currently have?
North Star users, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure they use like the HomeSnap app primarily for that purpose, to use the North Star native as well. But that would be a matrix.
She doesn't.
So here's the
I know, but
answer.
she keeps talking.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So I use North Star 50% of the time. I'm sure there's a lot of agents in here that may as well. Their mobile app is better than Duluth. Is it great? No. But
What mobile app are you talking
the
about?
North Star.
But what is it? What's the software?
It's just an online.
Is it Matrix or is
Yeah.
it something else? Okay, because of course, I'm guessing most of you in the room, if this goes through, are gonna keep Paragon, not Matrix.
Oh,
So that would
okay.
apply.
Oh, wait, there you go.
So you have your choice.
Yeah, you have your choice, and if you want both, it's an extra $5 a month. But like through some of these other apps like HomeSnap, you can pull up properties.
Yep, HomeSnap is super slick. I
Really cool.
love HomeSnap.
So HomeSnap would potentially take care of the mobile issue.
And to also address your question, Paragon, Black Knight Paragon is working on improving their mobile site. It's not an app, but mobile site for MLS, because the one they have now with the really basic, oh, Jason's raised his hand, speak up.
I have some questions online from some folks, so when you get a moment.
Oh, I thought you were gonna answer the question.
No, sorry. Sorry, I was paying attention.
Don't answer the question with a question.
I answered until you.
I was raising my
You had a
hand.
better answer than I did.
I was
Am
raising my
right?
hand.
Am
I on the right track?
I think we've got 2 or 3 questions still from the floor, and then we'll get to
Okay.
those.
All right. Yes, you.
Can you tell us which areas around us are using North Star and which ones are looking at doing it? The range, I'm talking about the range, Greater Lakes.
Okay, so the question is, what other associations right now are currently using North Star or are considering changing to or making an addition to North Star? So obviously, most of you know, Rochester's already switched over. Itasca has switched over. West Central is in it. What are the newer ones?
Greater Lake.
Yeah, I said Itasca.
St. Cloud.
St. Cloud, Rochester, St. Cloud's already been.
Brainerd.
Northern Iowa was next.
I believe Northern Iowa is next, but I don't believe that they've been given an option of a 4th seat.
Okay.
They're not pursuing that track. Yeah, they're not pursuing that track.
Did you say the range of it?
The range has not made a decision that I know of.
What's western Wisconsin?
That's,
Is that the
it's its own
Alexandria?
association, Western Wisconsin
Yeah, but
Association.
what does it cover?
Alexandria, it's the Alexandria area, I believe, isn't it?
Oh, Western Wisconsin.
Minnesota.
Sorry, no, Western Wisconsin is Pierce County and St. Croix County. So it'd be Hudson, River Falls, all the way, like it bumps up right to over there almost, the 94 corridor right there. That's considered part of the metropolitan area. So it's those 2 counties for sure, down to Prescott, maybe a little bit north towards Spooner, like that. That's Western Wisconsin.
All right, I'm gonna grab one more in the room and then we'll go to the phone. Frank?
Can we, North Star, not have to pay the $150,000 if we're not happy with North Star? How long are we locked in to North Star?
Okay, so the question, so there are 2. One was, do we have to do the 150 board seat?
$150,000, because if we're 6%, it may financially.
The option was there for us not to take a board seat, not pay the $150,000. But from previous experience and listening to our agents through these meetings, they felt like we would at least have a better option of keeping some control over the MLS by at least having one voice than having no voice.
But if we
So
spend
that's why the motion is to approve
$150,000
it.
and we're in half,
Do we get our money back?
No.
now we're locked in.
If, For the people that are online, so the question was, if we pay the $150,000 and we're not happy, can we get out? We absolutely can, it's a contract. You gotta follow the rules and laws of the contract. Will we get our $150,000 back? No. We're buying a share in a corporation, you know?
Then we stay on the board even though we're not using services.
That would be all in negotiation, and it'd be another membership meeting on how you wanted us to proceed.
But we don't have to be a shareholder.
We don't have to be a shareholder, but from all of the previous meetings that we've had, the bigger portion of you that voiced your opinions wanted us to have at least a little bit of control. Thus, the motion is included for us to purchase a board seat.
And are we going to, is there going to be someone willing every year, year after year after year, to be on that board?
So the question is there somebody that's willing to be there year after year on the board? Yes, I've already put my name forward because I've dealt with them for so long, and between Sassy and all that stuff, I've told Doug that I would be willing to do it.
You're gonna do it for.
And I think it needs to be a 3-year commitment, because that's what our contract time would be. So you'd have this potentially, and obviously, any of you can put in and request to be in that same position. I have no issues whatsoever putting you forward, no kidding.
Jason,
But yeah.
do we have any questions from the?
Yep. Sandra McHugh asked, North Star MLS automatically infills several fields based on the PID. Will they do this for our counties?
Yes, it is still an automatic feature when you type in the proper identification number. Is all of our information going to be correct when they populate it in? No, we all know it's not correct when you call the county and look it up. You can edit it and fix it. And then in their system, that information will follow that PID number.
Even Carleton County?
You might end up having to do a lot of editing in their system for Carleton County. But you can edit the information, you're not stuck with it.
It's not an extra step, it's, because right now, what you're putting in is all of it. But once you put in a property ID number, it'll fill in what it knows. Some of it might be wrong and you'd have to edit it, but it's going from nothing to putting it in versus there's something to edit. Yeah, it's one of their features.
I input a North Star listing this morning and the information was accurate and it did fill by itself.
Okay, so the comment was that he entered a listing into North Star this morning. He used the property ID number for it to populate the information, and the information was correct. Okay, do we have any more questions back there?
One more from Jonathan Thornton. Wouldn't this merger benefit our consumers, both buyer and seller consumers?
Did you all hear the question?
No.
Yes. To some of you, yes.
What was the question?
To some of you, no.
The question was, will this merger benefit our consumers, both buyers and sellers?
So my question on that would be, how does it benefit them differently than it already does? What would be the difference?
You give them all the information on the listings rather than looking at Zillow. Because now you've got it all.
They already use
it.
They're not gonna change that.
What additional information am I gonna get that I could click on find in 2 clicks and find last weekend I was in White Bear Lake. Found every listing I needed to by going into the Find app. It shows everything down to the broker compensation payout. I'm a member of North Star. All of those listings are in North Star, and I found them all in 2 clicks. What is the difference, and why would it make sense for me to pay more money to go down to a 5% voting share to get, what is the info I'm gaining for that loss that I'm gonna get?
So the question is, what's the difference between what I'm doing right now, which is using RPR and Find in addition to the Lake Superior MLS, as opposed to paying the kind of money for the board seat that we would be then potentially merging into? Right? Did I get that close?
Yes.
I'm trying to. Before we move on, we have a question that we didn't answer from the YouTube stream. How is this going to benefit our clients, buyers and sellers?
It's an addition to question.
Right, but we should address that and then go on to the addition. So
sorry.
We're realtors. Our clients come to us for professionalism and data accuracy. If we're saying I'll just go to Zillow and get it from there. My data resource is kind of fractured because I want to hold on to it. That's not professional. We don't do that.
I don't do that.
Shouldn't be doing that.
I definitely don't do
The
that.
client goes to Zillow.
The client, they already, but when they come to a realtor, should they expect a better data accuracy?
Yeah.
They can go to fund. But a merger is that one place where people could do that.
I just have, by a show of hands, how many of you have your clients set up on auto emails or collab center? That's a benefit. You merge both datas, you've got that house that's sitting as a listing right next to your house. When you send out that auto email, they're getting that property. The way you do it now, you can't send them out an auto email from RPR fund.
A few points on that. A couple of examples that have been given here tonight is my client rushes to me with Zillow. I don't control Zillow and I can't control Zillow. I can't control my clients, I wish I could. But they end up at Zillow. They end up at Zillow for another reason in Duluth is because we have a very tight housing market. And for sale by owners live out in Zillow. They live on Craigslist and live on all these other places. So after Agent Nick tells them, hey, I've exhausted all the resources of every MLS that I could ever access, guess where they go? Go back to internet land and start searching for some more information. So again, just because they're finding it on Zillow, we're not going to change that with a merger. That information is still being heavily, those buyer leads are being heavily sought after by Realtor.com, Trulia, and Zillow. They're the ones who are garbling up a huge data share in there. The merger, while will present some more information, maybe easier to me, I don't buy it. Because here's the deal, if a client comes to me and wants information on a listing, I'll maybe find it on Zillow, but you know what that finds me is it's the lead to the agent that has it listed. And as a professional, I go to an agent. And what am I gonna do before I put in an offer? Negotiate compensation from another agent in a different MLS within the state.
You don't have to do that, it's already there.
I get that, but
RPR, fine.
as a professional, we can easily do these things. So the consumers are there on internet land anyway, whether or not the merger goes through.
So basically what I'm hearing is your comment is that it's not gonna make a difference to our consumers no matter what we do.
I think our consumers are already looking at a lot of different avenues as opposed to a merger solving the consumer issue.
Yeah.
This merger is more of a agent issue, realtor broker issue, and the consumers are finding that information out there no matter what.
Correct.
We are going to be getting $45,000 for 2 years for support staff. And we're going to be getting $60,000 for the next 3 years for the data feed income to offset the lack of that income. What is LSAR going to do to generate $105,000? Actually, let's just say $60,000 or $45,000 in 2 years, and $105,000 to offset that cost in 3 years.
Great question.
So repeat it for the.
Okay, there was a clarification and a question in there. We are going to be receiving from Northstar $45,000 for 2 years. And that is to help us be able to provide the services on Paragon to the users who subscribe through us to the MLS. And we are going to be provided $60,000 for 3 years to offset IDX income that we are losing as an association from no longer running our own MLS. So with those two things, it helps us balance our budget for that period of time. We rebudget every single year. Right now, I don't think we have an answer as to where exactly that money is coming from in the future. She has.
Come on up, Miranda.
So the first thing is, right now, you've got more.
Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
The first thing is you have a mortgage that's gonna be paid off. It'll be a year in March.
Yay.
Okay, so that's pretty significant. The $60,000, count on that being gone. Again, the data feeds, because it's all one database now, the people who are powering your websites are not paying us and paying Northstar for those of you who have both of those feeds on there. It's just one feed and you have all the data on there. That is not gonna continue, okay? So count on that $60,000 after 3 years being gone. This is really meant as a way, if this goes through, for us to reallocate our income and expenses in order to address that loss in income. Okay, so count on that being up. The 45, however, to support the MLS here, because if we didn't have MLS support here, it would all be going down to Northstar's office.
They see this as a worthy investment in the association here to make sure we have somebody to support the MLS if this goes through. That absolutely can be renegotiated and re-added. I have every reason to believe that if we perform here, I have every reason to believe that we will perform here, that will continue.
I think, you know, Jason's services and all of your services are definitely needed, I believe, and I heard that Rochester went back, basically that you were able to negotiate the same thing as Rochester got, is that accurate?
We did some negotiating.
I know.
Do you know that base? Have you used that base before?
I was told that Rochester went back and basically got the same thing, where they're, you know, they got the 45,000.
Remember our antitrust times, the beginning of the.
That's not antitrust. That's not antitrust. No, those are.
You're correct, our negotiation there. Yes.
So they continued it. So I don't see Jason's job or anybody's job being at stake here necessarily.
Well, the one thing I will say to that is we've had these questions come up. What happens in the future? What about money in the future? What are we gonna do? What's gonna happen with our fees and that sort of thing? And I said it online yesterday, I think it was yesterday, I don't know, it's kind of a blur.
Yep.
I'll say it again today. This association does not work unless the members want it to work, and I mean that. There's no way the leadership of this organization or the staff here can pull it through without the support of the members. That's a fact. If you don't want the association to work, it's not going to work. If you want the association to work, if you believe in what we're doing here, and you see the value here, we're gonna be fine.
Miranda?
I went on my soapbox. Yes?
Just one point of clarification, we currently have 2 mortgages, and 1 mortgage will get paid off.
Correct.
We still have 1 mortgage.
Correct.
So we won't
Okay.
be mortgage free in here,
For the
we'll have
upgrade.
1 less
For
mortgage.
the building.
Correct.
So
Okay.
for a point of clarification, we do have 2 mortgages. 1 is gonna be paid off. I don't know who was first. You go ahead, call.
So at the end of the 2 years, when that 45,000 is, we have to be renegotiated, who makes a decision as to whether we keep that or not?
So the question was, at the end of the 2 years with the $45,000, who makes the decision on what happens if we renegotiate that or not?
That would be the board of the North Star Corporation.
So 21.
Yes.
Correct.
I'm kind of not, I work for a developer, so I'm not in the mainstream of real estate sales, but to me, I'm thinking the advantage, the biggest advantage to us is getting our listings into the Twin Cities and around, and that's the biggest benefit, but do our listings already get there, or?
Okay, so the comment was, she's not necessarily, and I'm paraphrasing, so I'm not politically correct, sorry. She's not in regular sales. It isn't a benefit that our listings would show up now in North Star and better available to their agents, paraphrase, correct?
Right.
Okay, yes. You can still find it right now, though.
Right. There was a second part to that question,
Yeah.
is, are they down there already? Yes, IDX sites, RPR, fine, they are down there already.
But it's a second search for them.
Right.
It's a second search for them as well. We have another question over here first.
Yeah, my question is, you keep saying when you search and the house next door is not in the MLS, how many listings are not in our MLS? Because you should know that answer, I think.
No, because I don't know how many listings the range has.
That are here.
They're not in fine, they're not in RPR. They're not participating in compensation. So if any of you want to sell something that's in the range MLS, you have to call them. You have to see what they're paying out for compensation, and then you go show the property. You will still have to do that with the range because they have, at this point, I have not heard that they have any intention of either all coming to us or all going to Itasca or all going to North Star.
So they're not in fine or anything?
Their properties are, but the offer of compensation is not, because they're not a participant in SASE. Okay, wait a second, Adam first.
So we were talking about who votes on what down there with board seats. How are the board seats down there assigned? Is it all the same as what we're gonna grab, or are they assigned differently?
The question was, how are the board seats for North Star Corporation assigned? There, if we merge, will be 21 board seats. There are 5 for the founding association users
St. Paul and
of
Minneapolis.
North Star, which is St. Paul, Minneapolis. So St. Paul Association has 5 board seats, Minneapolis Association has 5 board seats. There is 1 board seat for CMAR, that's the Rochester Area Association that has joined and bought that board seat. The rest of those 20 are made up of the brokerages that have the most unit sales within North Star MLS. So there's Remax Results, Edina, Cole Baker Burnett, the big brokerages that are selling a large unit share, they make up the rest of the board seats.
And that's decided on a unit share, and I don't remember how often they reallocate those, but it's as the terms change up.
Is that number 8? At the end of the board seat, I think?
5, 10, 11, 12, 9. 9.
9, so 9 potential additional
Thanks
board
for making
seats.
me do math, Adam.
Frank?
Just out of curiosity, when it comes to the vote, how many selections are we gonna have? 1, 2, or 3? Is it gonna be, joining North Star paying them 150, joining North Star and not paying them
So,
150?
really good
or not
question.
joining North
So the question is, when the vote comes out, how many choices are there gonna be? So we should put the motion up since he asked that question.
Is it right now?
So the motion is to merge MLS operations with Regional Multiple Listing Service of Minnesota, Inc., RMLS, as a shareholder association and amend the LSAR bylaws as follows under the following conditions. So then those following conditions, the choice is yes or no, because it's a motion. When a motion is made, the choice is yay or nay. I am in favor of this motion. I am opposed to this motion. That's the choice.
Yes.
Going back to the 45,000 and the 60,000 that North Star will give to us to help in the transition. If on the flip side of that, if we are going to lose, the IDX feeds that we currently generate income from, what is that amount that we are going to, because the 45 and 60 are going to sunset. Or if we keep things that are the same and we keep the IDX feeds that generate income to our association stays, that continues. So what is that dollar amount that we take by sharing our IDX stuff?
Miranda?
I have 2 small clarifications. First clarification.
Wait. Yeah, she can't, first we need to phrase the question.
Right.
Or
Okay,
just
so the
repeat it.
question, I think what I heard was, she's asking about IDX income and what is the plan?
Yeah, because you guys said that the IDX that we get now that does generate income for us, we'll lose that.
Yeah.
But we have this in the buffer transition
Yeah.
period. But what dollar amount are we losing that would continue on in the future if we stay the way it is?
Well, I don't know the future, but
Well,
But-
what is the figure right now? Do we know what the figure
it's about
is?
60. It's
I'm
60.
gonna repeat the question.
Yeah, we need to paraphrase the
So
question.
the question is, with the what is the amount of IDX income that we are losing? And that question also went on to ask, what would we be losing in the future? No.
Okay, so we restructured our RETS billing for, RETS is for raw data that we send to the people who build your websites. We restructured that fee, but it is around 62,000 a year that we get from all of that, IDX, raw data, all that stuff is all in that pot, okay? Now, point of clarification, the 60, which we're getting for 3 years, bet on that being gone no matter what, that's not gonna come back, okay? The 45 for MLS support, again, if we prove our value, which I have every reason to believe we will, because I guarantee North Star doesn't want all you calling them, I do anticipate that being continued and renegotiated.
But the 45 is still an unknown.
Yeah,
And where the
yeah.
60,000 currently, it comes
You're right, the
to us
45 is an unknown.
in the future, if we kept things where they are. That answered it.
Matt?
If I'm understanding this correctly, it could potentially be a swing of $105,000 a year that we would be losing once these dollar amounts sunset. That we are going to be getting back.
Somewhere around there, because that number changes. Sorry.
So the question was, does that mean there could potentially be $105,000 swing once those numbers disappear?
And the answer is around that, because we don't know what that number is year to year. It's a budget item that
How does that get
changes.
made up though, is what I'm saying? Where are we going to get that money back?
You know, what's gonna get cut.
Or,
Yeah.
Um, Okay.
Okay, Miranda's answer.
Right answer again?
So the question again was, what are we gonna do when that goes away or whatever? And, so yeah, we re-budget every year. There are two things that are gonna happen. One, I already talked about the 45. I have every reason to believe that's
Which is
gonna
not
continue.
here.
Yeah, none of it's guaranteed, you know, not a thing.
Yeah.
But, as far as the 60 is concerned, yeah, there's gonna need to be some reallocation there. And do I know exactly how we're gonna do all of that right now? No, because we'll see that as it goes forward. We don't know what our membership numbers are gonna be in 3 years. We don't know what it's gonna look like. One of the expense items for sure that we're not gonna have anymore is we've got a $2,500 mortgage payment every month. That's going to be gone by the time we get there. So that'll be good.
So that's 30 of it.
Yeah, that's 30 of it. And then we'll see where the rest of it falls. So do I know exactly, does the board know exactly where we're gonna be in 3 years? No. Don't. Is that fair?
Sure.
Okay, wait, Danielle.
It says a 5% share, that doesn't come with any income.
Right.
Okay.
So the question was, that comes with a 5% share that doesn't come with any income. This shareholder agreement, the way the shares work, we are not gonna get dividends. The only way we would get paid out on those shares is one, if we sold them, which they're valued at $1 per share. So
Correct.
nothing. The other way is if North Star dissolves, and we would then, as a shareholder, get a percentage of that dissolution, whatever they're worth at the time.
So North Star operates from an income and expense standpoint on basically a zero budget. They don't operate to take in a bunch of income and pay out to their shareholders. If at the end of the year they have a surplus of income, they rebate it back on a per user basis to the end users, which would be you all. My understanding is I think this year and years past, there's been a rebate or whatever back to the users where they haven't had to pay MLS fees for a month or two or something like that. So if there's income there, it's not that the association itself, because here's the other thing. What do we want all that money for anyway as an association? I don't know, my vacation? Not really. Because we operate very similarly. As long as we have our reserves in line, we don't operate to make a bunch of money. We set our fees and our budget based on what we need to in order to make sure the association still continues and we're fiscally responsible, but we don't take in a bunch of money. So it would go back to the end users in reduced fees, is my anticipation.
Correct. Well, not here. Was there a question back there?
That actually answered the question.
Oh, yay!
Wait, 2 for 1.
Adam, you're
Yep.
first, then Frank.
So I'll go back to the $45,000. My understanding is that is for us to support Paragon, right? For our users?
It is for us to support our users regardless of what system they use.
Okay.
It's totally feasible that we have people using Matrix, and the staff here all knows that's something that we're gonna have to learn. Work with us if this goes through until we do learn that. But yeah, there may be people in here who, if this goes through, they don't wanna use Paragon anymore, they wanna use Matrix or they wanna use both. We'll have to support both systems. But right now, we are absolutely best positioned to support the Paragon product in the entire state of Minnesota. I mean, I'll argue that all day long. We've got it.
Correct.
So that could
So,
potentially be something in the future where we can show value?
yes, and it might be a source of an additional revenue stream as well.
Frank?
Please help me understand this. When we vote, why are we stuck with just yes or no rather than?
Wait.
The question is, when we
question.
vote, why is it a yes or no vote rather than having choices of different options merging via
Like the
shares?
150.
Right. Miranda, do you want to answer that?
Yes. I have 2 answers. The first answer is really simple, and you can be mad at me for it. But according to your bylaws, you've adopted Robert's Rules of Order as how you're gonna conduct business here, which means there's a motion on the table and you vote whether that motion passes or fails. Not this, then maybe this over here, or what about this one over here?
Well, how can you do that when you don't know what's going on until you have meetings?
Well, we've been meeting since April, and we've talked.
Now we're finding out what's happening.
But all the information has been out there for months and months and months. And
But
I have a second answer.
hang on. Shh, Miranda.
I have a second answer. We did start having membership meetings in April.
Then we asked to amend it.
Can you ask to amend it? It would require us to cancel the vote and start over, but
Can we do that?
you know, I honestly have never had that asked.
I have never had that asked before either, so.
The answer
Make
is
a
yes.
motion to cancel.
Yes.
Sure.
Okay, hang on.
Please quiet, please
The
quiet.
answer, Frank, is yes. If you would like to make a motion to amend the motion, you may do so, because we are in a membership meeting. We can address that motion to amend the motion immediately.
I second that.
Yeah.
We can.
I think we need
I
to
think-
restart our notice period to the membership.
We have to we have a notice period when there's gonna be a change. We would have to restart everything, and that's not saying that we won't, but I think we really need to get through there's quite a bit more discussion that we need to have before we jump on making any additional motions, I believe. So I'm just gonna reel it back, keep it in your minds that it's potentially out there, yes.
Okay, I do agree with Frank. I know there's been meetings, but I feel like some of the information and how quickly the votes happen after this meeting, I don't agree with how quickly that's happening. But I have a bigger fear for our association. As an association member sitting here, listening to this conversation, I've always felt that our association provides a couple things. One is MLS. We have control of the data. And then number two is providing benefits to the members, like Miranda just said too, and we have the choice as the members to the association what we do. My fear with this merger is that there are a lot of outline agents that are members of LSAR. They will have the choice, if this merger goes through, to drop LSAR and to become Northstar. And as we've discussed, Northstar has the bigger, more robust platform and the more features and this and that. We would distinctly be looking at, well, if we don't have that information anymore, we could lose a lot of members, especially our outline members, and would just frankly choose to join a different MLS. Or excuse me, join a different association.
His concern is that we're gonna lose membership, if we have merger.
Yep.
And
That's
so
the
much,
difference.
so basically, it's so much so that we would also lose our association is how I took that question.
Yep.
You're afraid of where our association is gonna be in 2 or 3 years.
5-10 years.
And that is,
5-10 years.
so there is a risk.
Yep.
So we have MLS of choice and association of choice as realtors. So
Yep.
if you want to.
Well, I'm just saying, I like our association up here. It's really nice, it's really friendly. I'd like to keep it.
And yay, he said he likes the association.
Okay, Northstar is not an association, so in order to get MLS services from Northstar, you have to go through an association. SPAR, MAR, LAR, CMAR.
Or Itasca.
Or Western Wisconsin.
Or Western Wisconsin, yes.
But because they're not an association, you still have to go through an association to get access to that MLS.
Pick your favorite
Okay, and
association.
Tom, you've got a.
I wanna just answer something regarding that. So as a board member, when we did the budget this year, we actually calculated, we started off with, we are going to lose a certain percentage of members. We threw that in the budget. And then there was a discussion at the board level that probably wasn't enough. And we doubled that number as to what we thought we would be losing. So for this year's budget, we did take that into account. Future years, as Miranda said, we don't know. You know,
Share that
Okay,
number?
so the answer was,
20.
have we thought about in our budget, the potential of losing members? And that the answer from Tom was the budget where I don't even remember the
I
percentage.
think it was 10 and then we went to
Apologize.
20.
But we took a percentage of potential loss. When we went back over the budget, we thought it might not be enough, and we made that number bigger. Do we know what's gonna happen ultimately? We know exactly how many people could potentially or potentially join us? We don't know. It's a business decision. We're just giving you the information to help you make your business decision when you vote.
Casey?
And maybe you've already covered this, but how many current brokerages are also members of Northstar already?
We don't know.
I mean,
The
because
question was how many current brokerages are a member of Northstar already, and we don't know.
Not a majority of our members.
It's
It's a minority for sure.
Can
Because I know-
ask people if they could raise their hands if they're already, all right, by raise of hands, you can if you want to, you don't have to if you don't want to say, how many people are in multiple MLSs right now in this room?
No.
Okay, so, about not even a quarter, so that's about as good as we can get.
I was in Brainerd when they went through this very process. When the Greater Lakes Association joined Northstar. And I listened to the same kinds of concerns, and Brainerd is functioning very well at this point, and they're happy with their move to Northstar.
So you went through it once and through Brandon and they're functioning well. We're gonna have a question over here first and then we'll pop over to that side. I'm not you, Sherry, sorry.
Well, I mean, essentially, isn't the answer, is this motion, if you vote no for this motion, then there will be an opportunity to bring back another motion that might be addressed someday.
If there's a no vote to this motion, it's back to the table like we said before. We still have our Paragon contract. We still have to deal with that. We still have to look, because Paragon is renewing. We are going to be renewing that contract. Then do we look at other MLS systems and see if we find one that's better? Do we do that? Do we stay exactly the way we are? What is our fee structure gonna be? It's all back to the drawing board if this is a no vote. It's a new drawing board if it's a yes vote, because there's still additional stuff that we need to do. Sherry first,
So-
over here.
We can, if we stay with our MLS as we are, when Paragon, expires, we can go to another platform like Matrix, which is what.
Correct. So the question was, when Paragon does expire, because it's going to, we could potentially go to Matrix as one of our MLS options. Yes. It will be a decision. I think it's Kevin first.
To your point, with the Brainerd meetings, I spoke to one longtime Brainerd broker. She's been a broker there for, I think, 15 years, and a longtime realtor. Both of them were very clear that if they could go back and undo their joining North Star, they would. They went for a lot of various reasons, and it kind of, it covered the gamut of stuff. But, so that's not anecdotal, that's very specific. Second,
Okay,
kind of
wait. So first, people on, so a couple Brainerd brokers were spoken to by one of the people here in the meeting, and they pretty much emphatically said if they had it to do over again, they wouldn't do it. Okay, so that's what that anecdotal portion was. Okay.
And then the second point, piggybacking a little bit on what Nick said, is, the idea of relinquishing our local control. It'd be sort of like going to Cloquet and Two Harbors and Duluth and Hermantown and saying, yeah, we're gonna disband your local city councils because we think the Twin Cities have better ideas for us. Let's do away with Lake County Board. Let's do away with St. Louis County.
I think they're proud of that.
We'd be the Jay Bosley of the world down in the Twin Cities. You get in the center little piece, but you lose 8-1 every single time. Your voice is insignificant. You can voice it, but they're always going to do what's best for that area down there. And so I think of it in those very clear terms that once we release that, you know what, you're going to get what you get.
So to paraphrase the comment from the floor, we're gonna get what we get, and we're gonna lose too much control by only having that 5% one shareholder position. Correct? Okay, sorry.
Great.
Correct.
Michelle, this gentleman in the back spoke of Brainerd, and I'm wondering if there's enough history with Brainerd, Rochester, or possibly Itasca, if they did have a loss of membership when they did this. Did they actually gain people in, or did they lose people, or was it a static thing?
Again, so the question was, with the history with Brainerd and them going in and then Rochester going in, did they lose membership? Miranda, can you answer that, or do you want?
Well,
because I can only go by what I've heard. You may know more from AEs.
yeah, so Greater Lakes, I think that was like 10 years ago, yeah.
Right here in the orange.
Hey, stop. Greater Lakes, I don't really know, that was quite a while ago, I mean, I think it's been like 10 years. Rochester was 1 year ago, they did lose some members, it wasn't this super large majority. Pretty much most of their MLS onlys, which we budgeted for that anticipation as well of the, brokers who joined our MLS as a secondary, if you will, that are more, that were already set up with North Star, through another association, we anticipate leaving them. I think we'll still have some MLS onlys from our northern MLS only contingent, I'll say. And then people who just like us better. I mean, because that's actually a thing, I guess. Itasca just did it like last month, so there's not information.
Yeah, we don't have enough. Frank's gonna be first, then we'll go to you. Frank?
I'm sorry, I have to go back to this, but when this motion was made about paying $150,000, did you guys realize it was gonna be a 5% share?
Yes.
Yes.
And
In
you
order,
still put-
in order
And I
for
would
that
like to make an
motion,
amendment to change that to the first one, joining North Star paying $150, the second one, joining North Star and not paying that $150, and the third motion, not joining North Star, period.
so you want 3 separate votes?
Absolutely.
Okay, yeah, you want to.
Hang on, before we move on and clarify that and put that into better wording, I think we need to talk to our attorney to make sure we actually can do that. Because we have YouTube watchers, we have people who are participating in this meeting that are not in this room, that would be required to vote in that.
I can promise you, anything that changes today is gonna require at least 2 weeks' notice and to start over.
That's fine.
The motion has to pass anyways.
What's that?
The motion would have to pass.
The motion.
The motion needs a second before we move forward.
We have people that are online live right now, so this is a, yeah, help.
However, I honestly do not know the answer, and I'm not comfortable giving a for sure answer on how to handle this until we consult with their attorney.
That's fine.
So that's where I'm at on that.
Or the motion
What is
stays
our
at
quorum number? 0.
There is no quorum number for this. However many of you vote, majority rules in this. So potentially, if you don't like the way the motion is worded, you vote it down.
Yes, you can vote this motion down. It's okay for a motion to fail.
It is.
I think we have a motion in second already, don't we?
Well,
For this.
there's no second.
And this was seconded by Nick.
Yeah.
This we don't know if it can even be technically be seconded because we have a live feed to YouTube right now. We would literally need to consult with our attorney to figure out what the ramification of rules are for that right now. So I maybe you call the attorney?
I can't try. I didn't have it lined up this meeting.
I think
there was a second.
Yes, Casey.
So with regards to.
Hang on, hold on, please. Thank you.
So with regards to the option that has been discussed about not having a shareholder position, can you buy in later? Are there any consequences to waiting? Is it always on the table that you have an option to buy in? That if we were to choose a second option as been proposed and discussed, then are we forever losing the opportunity?
So the question is, if we make changes, does that change what our options are? Yes. Right now, this is what the deal is that we've been given by North Star as what we're voting on. It was determined that we wanted the board seat. It was determined we'd be merging the MLSs. It was determined and we negotiated the $45,000 payments. It was determined and negotiated the $60,000 payments. If this motion changes or is voted down, that's obviously all gone. If you want part of that motion removed, it's renegotiation with North Star because all of that is intertwined. If we don't pay for the board seat, we may not get the $45,000 payments or the $60,000 payments. So that's why the motion is as it sits right now. Sorry, over here.
Why do we have to buy a voice in the first place as opposed, they're asking us to give up a revenue stream, buy a share of an unprofitable company just so that we have a voice and a small voice in what's gonna happen to us.
Okay. So the question is, why do we even want to purchase a board seat
As opposed to just being given a board seat for being a member.
in an unprofitable company? You guys left me up here all by myself. I'm like here in the headlights right now. First off, they're a very profitable company.
It was said earlier that they operate with zero profit.
They
give it back.
They give it back to their members. So if they had a $50,000 net income, they don't keep it they pass it back out to the members. So what we pay for however many members we have at that time, we would give back to the association a potential refund.
That's like
Per member.
a company that gives all their property back to the employee.
Hey,
Right?
Miranda's gonna save me before I stick my foot.
I just, one point I wanna make regarding the request to amend them, because the motion is, again, to join as a shareholder. These are bullet points under it. These are not the motion. If you'll note, this is just bullet points. This is what we're doing it under these conditions so that everything is clear. For sure, bylaws changes need at least 2 weeks notice. That needs to go out to members. The other thing I just want to bring up, do you know what part the membership actually, per your bylaws, needs to have? What part they actually need to play in this? There's only one. Who knows what it is? No, it's not even that. What's the one?
One answer was the $150,000.
It's not a capital expense.
I don't understand.
I don't
Okay,
understand.
so
Like I'm
the
trying to
question
guess
is, there is
something.
one part of this discussion that you guys, or one part of this decision that is required that the membership approve, and that's a change to your bylaws.
Yeah.
So the board is putting it before you because we weren't gonna do anything without your input. So honestly, if you don't like this, if you don't wanna do it, vote it down. That's why we're here. There's no position that the board's taken on it. But I will say, all of this stuff we've gone through, the board, the task force went through all of these different scenarios. Based on the feedback that we got and the research that we did, this was the motion that they put in front of you. If you don't like it, vote it down. Now, we can see about if there is, I would say, momentum behind joining and not having a board seat. It would be new to me because all the discussions we have had have not included that. And we would honestly have to go back to the drawing board. I really do think we would have to, because all of the discussions that we've had have been dependent on all of these pieces going together. So
So
wait. You have,
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm kind of backtracking a little bit here. I'm kind of referring back to the Brainerd Association going to North Star. My dad is a real estate agent in Brainerd, has been for 18 or 20 years. And I spoke with him about this yesterday, trying to get his opinion. He said the biggest issue that he had with it is something that I can't say because Miranda will cut me out.
So basically what the question.
Well done, Dave. However, there was another issue that I think I probably can say because I think it's more of an ethics issue. That I think is that he says he consistently gets agents who have buyers for his listings, and rather than the agents driving from Minneapolis to Brainerd to actually show the listing, they will call my dad and say, show my client this listing. And he said, okay, I'm happy to show it to you and I'll pay you a 25% referral. And they're saying, no, we show it to them and we split the commission with each other. So he said, this is something that happens consistently. I'm not saying that for sure that would happen here, but I think it's something that'd be crazy to think if he didn't expect that.
Okay, so to kind of paraphrase that, portions of what he was gonna say was potentially gonna be antitrust violation, so he didn't say it. And the second portion was that is the brokerage that he was discussing got more phone calls from agents coming up for referrals, but he didn't necessarily like the way that they wanted to split their referral. Again, a business decision on how you handle that.
I have two things. First, with the gentleman in the back, was a piece that just to.
Yeah, they want to continue. There's no referral. They want
No referral. They still want to be the buyer's agent.
Oh, yeah.
They're not the listing agent.
Okay, sorry, I have to fix my paraphrase because it was incorrect. The agents want basically the listing agent to show the property to their buyers,
And then they get.
and
paid
then
as if-
they will just continue the transaction.
Yes. I get requests for that all the time anyway. I mean,
So do I.
that already has happened lately.
Oh,
Just so you know.
So then the other thing was all about everybody got in a hubbub, it happens already. It wouldn't change much.
Okay, two things.
Sorry.
Two things. First, piggybacking on the gentleman in the back seat. To me, it does sound like we would be, I mean, if we do this, we are giving up a revenue stream that's in the future. Well, first of all, we're paying money to lose control. And we're losing a revenue stream of those IDX fees in the future. And although we have a temporary thing of the 60,000 and a temporary thing of 45, which could or could not be renegotiated in the future, that to me, I mean, unless I'm off that to me sounds pretty accurate. I mean, I think and when it works fine the way it is, albeit we have to do a couple more clicks to get the information. And then piggybacking on the lady in the front, was talking about voting no versus amending it. If it accomplishes the same thing with going back to the drawing board, is one quicker than the other in the process?
Yes, one is quicker than the other in the process. I don't know how to answer that. First off, how do we make that a smaller question to the camera?
I don't even understand the question.
It was a comment. Oh, one was a comment, the second was the conversation, lady in the front said, if you just vote no, it's quicker to go, accomplish what Frank wants to do and get it thought about with not paying the $150 and still joining but not having the board seat.
If you vote no, a different motion would have to be put together, and that bylaws change has to remain, so it's another 2 weeks if this is voted down. If we vote to amend it, it is also another 2 weeks. So it is the same result whether we vote this motion down or amend it before we vote.
Okay, that was my question.
As far as time.
Okay, Adam first.
Well, I think the biggest issue is we don't actually know the answer to Frank's question. We don't know if it would change anything if we didn't find a board seat, because we haven't had that discussion, right? We don't actually have that information.
So the question was, so we don't actually know if it's gonna change anything if we don't buy the board seat.
As far as costs and stuff.
The answer is yes, it will change. We still have to renegotiate. We still have to figure out what they're gonna allow or not allow. We could potentially lose those two $45,000 payments
Right.
instead of
We don't know what the
$360.
change will be.
We don't know what the change is gonna be.
Right, so I'll make a note about that. The 45,000 and the 60,000 were a part of a negotiation. If we no longer are buying into the corporation and being a part of the ownership, that reopens all our negotiation. We could potentially have a loss of that revenue stream as well.
Okay,
We don't. It sounds like that's not even a good idea to try to amend it right now, because then you're adding, and
We're not even sure if we can.
right, but you don't wanna vote on that when you don't have all the information. Like, you're right, but what's on the table is to just be.
I would much rather see membership.
Paraphrase.
I don't.
So basically, the comment was, as the motion sits, we're better on voting on this motion as it sits because we don't know what trying to amend this motion, which we don't know if we can, would do to our negotiation powers in the future. Yes?
Yes.
Okay. And yes, that is a very true statement.
You either vote yes or no.
I think there was somebody, did my yes?
Yeah, my hand's been up.
Oh, yeah, well, we've talked to you so much already. Sorry, you go ahead. I've ignored you twice, I'm sorry.
This is just a functionality question, and hopefully it's easy for you guys to answer, because I just want to understand how this is going to work. As an association right now, if we wanted to go in and change a field, for instance, in Paragon, we wanted to add something as an association, we vote on it, it's added, correct?
Correct.
What is the process if we want to do that? Maybe we vote yes to this. What is the new process of if we want to add a field?
Okay, the question is, right now, we can, I'm gonna change it a little bit for clarification purposes. Right now, as an association, we can send our requests to our MLS committee for changes. The committee chair has the choice to discuss that change or not discuss that change. And put, whether it's on their agenda or not, that committee votes whether that change is going to be made to the MLS. And the question is, how in North Star would we address MLS field changes?
Correct.
Okay. The board will act as our MLS committee as far as field changes.
They have a council.
They have a council. I'm not gonna answer that then.
So North Star has a, I don't know what they call it exactly, but they've got a user council basically. It's an advisory council. Where, that's the body that looks at all the recommendations or whatever and goes through them very. Oh, would you like to answer?
I can answer.
Go ahead,
please. So currently, Brainerd and St. Cloud are two similarly sized memberships and MLSs to us. They bought into North Star between 10 and 15 years ago. They did not get offered a board seat. They are merely subscribers to the service. Rochester bought in a year ago, has a board seat, a similar size, just so you guys, so that's kind of how similarly sized MLSs function with North Star, that could potentially go either direction on that. Because Brainerd and St. Cloud don't have a board seat, there's an advisory council that's made up of their MLS committees, board members from their local associations, things of that nature. I think their AEE or CEO sits on the advisory committee. So in my dealings at the state level with the state board of directors and other agents from around the state, I've asked the question, well, how sensitive are they to changes that you guys want that you don't even have a board seat? The feedback I've been given is that they are open to having the conversation. They've made some field changes based on things that have come out of the St. Cloud area, based on things that have come out of the Brainerd area. And sometimes they don't make the change, but at least they've had the conversation. It sounds like from what I've gathered, the board does very much take seriously any recommendations made by that advisory council to the board of directors as far as like how the MLS is functioning for the agencies, the brokerages and things like that. Does that kind of address whomever's question that was?
Yeah, so what I'm actually trying to get at, and I think most of you probably understood where I was going with this is, right now, if we want to make a change within our fields or something that we want to add, we vote on it as an association, that change is made. It's a pretty simple process, relatively.
No,
that's not.
sorry, okay, wait, I'm gonna back it up. So to paraphrase, it said basically if we want to change in the MLS, we tell them we want the change and the change is made.
Let
It's
them
done.
finish the way we handle it as an association. If we want to change, we vote on it as an association, that changes happens. If we want to do
No, it
that.
goes to the MLS.
Hey, let
It
us
doesn't
finish.
happen that way. It goes to the MLS committee. The chair of the MLS committee decides whether it's a change that should move forward or not, whether there's a need for it, and then goes to the committee. The committee decides whether that change is needed. We lump up a bunch of changes basically all at one time, and I think we do them like every 6 months, because we're not gonna make a change every single
But that
time.
happens within us.
But it's all in collaboration.
Within us.
Within
Our
us.
MLS committee.
Now our collaboration would be with an advisory committee and being on the board to make those changes.
We would bring that change to their board, correct?
You would bring your requested change to our MLS committee.
Okay,
Our MLS committee would discuss it,
and then bring it to them.
and then if it's something that we felt was needed for our agents, for your business, we would then bring that to the advisory committee. The advisory committee would then decide if it also is needed.
See what I'm getting at?
It is, we've already gone through. It was included in your packet. They have not bucked us on a single one. In fact, they have changed their system in a couple of places because they're like, oh, I can't believe we didn't have that. That makes so much sense.
But honestly, there's nothing preventing you from sending them an email too and saying, hey, this is a change we'd like to see, or I'd like to see.
Correct.
That's still something you can do, but.
Okay.
So we did get an email with an answer to a previous question. The question that we're referring to is, do we have any historical data on how North Star's user fee has changed? And so we have data all the way back to 2011, and the user fee was 25. The user fee is currently 25. It went up for a while because they were in the middle of a lawsuit, but historically it has not moved much.
I've gotten rebates on mine. I was happy when your bill goes down. No, that's what our fees would be. Yes, in the back.
If I'm kind of gauging this correctly, what I'm seeing is there's a lot of, about a fourth by the raise of hands in here that are both North Star MLS and our MLS, and it seems that generally those people are more in favor of us joining the North Star MLS. We used to be, in our company, part of North Star MLS, we used it as a point of differentiation, so antitrust, right? We use that as a point of differentiation, as you can still do. We dropped out of the North Star MLS. We didn't see the value of it. You know what? Use that against me if I'm competing with you for a listing that you're also in the North Star MLS and Kevin O'Brien isn't. Take me out. Why drag us, the rest, into that continue to use it. Yeah, I get it, you have some double input and all of that, but use it to your advantage rather than pulling the rest of us that direction who've experienced it and didn't like it.
Jason's got a question.
Wait, we need to paraphrase that one first, that comment.
This is more of a statement than a question, so you can continue with the question.
So the paraphrase was, if we don't do this, then those of us, well, I already raised my hand, you know I'm in both. Those of us that are in both can use that as a point of being better towards our clients in our negotiations with getting their listings or selling them properties. Okay, comment first.
Statement from Jonathan Thornton is if you were meeting with a buyer at 2 p.m. and after that meeting they wanted to see more homes and you gave them two options, would you want information from 600 realtors or tens of thousands of realtors in Minnesota, Wisconsin region? What do you think the answer would be?
Okay, can you step out from the doorway and repeat that? Sorry.
It still won't make sense.
It still won't make sense? Okay, sorry.
No, that's fine.
Watch your shoulder on the camera.
Or just turn around and look right at it.
And do the hokey pokey.
All right, so Jonathan Thornton's statement was, if you were meeting with a buyer at 2 p.m. and after the meeting they wanted to see more homes and you gave them two options, would you want information from 600 realtors or tens of thousands of realtors in Minnesota, Wisconsin region? What do you think the answer would be?
Okay, so that was his statement. Nick?
I'm gonna piggyback on Kevin there. He's got a very valid point. I understand there are agents that have multiple associations that are part of that, but I feel like that's the 20% that's gonna drop out in the first year, is the people that are.
That's not true.
That's my feeling on it, is a lot of the outliers will be dropping out.
So
The 20%.
wait.
I want to make a comment quick. Stop calling the other people outside of the Twin Ports outliers.
Yes.
They are not outliers, they are members of this association.
Yes.
We are not superiors.
And I have a comment. All the ones that are in multiple MLSs that raised their hand, they did not for this. Just saying. They just said they're in multiple MLSs.
Just because you raised your hand and you're in multiple MLSs, it is true. None of us said, yes, we're voting one way or voting the other way. This is a neutral process to help you guys make an informed decision that's gonna be best for however you feel your business is going to run. That's why we have stayed neutral this whole time, why we have put as much information out there as we can. Yes.
What does it cost to become a member of the North Star separately from this merger?
You would have to contact each association that is currently involved in the North Star Alliance and ask them what fees they charge their users.
Okay, so the question was, what does it currently cost to be a user? Answer was, you'd have to call each individual MLS association, each individual association, figure out what their fees are and their structure is at this point in time. What were your first?
I don't know, did someone in the room who's a current member answer that question for you? or-
No.
You're not gonna answer that question.
No.
Okay, thank you.
That's like an antitrust thing, right? Yeah. That'd be antitrust things.
Tom.
Wait, Tom
So,
first, then you.
so I think the question wasn't answered right though, because you have to join an association. You don't have to join LSAR. You don't have to join Eau Claire or St. Cloud you have to be a member of an association to get MLS access from North Star. They're two different things. And so you need, if you want MLS access, you can still be a member here at LSAR and get just North Star access if that's what you want. If you want to.
Sorry, it has to be through an association still.
Correct, you
You can do it MLS.
Yes.
Carry on.
no, so so your options are many. It's not like you have to go to every single association and join every single association. You don't have to do that. You can join one association and get your MLS from the others.
Did everybody catch that in the room? Yes, okay. Sherry?
Well, I was just wondering, how many people did we lose when we incorporated SASE? Because it was at that point that I could be a member of both the St. Paul and Minneapolis to get the North Star and then the Duluth. and that's.
So the question
what-
was, how many members do we lose when we switched over to the SASE platform? You guys got all the information. I don't know the answer to that.
We don't have that.
I don't think we lost.
From the time to then and the time till now, we look at how many agents have come on and left and come on and left. That's a number I can't. come up
Sassy
with.
didn't last more than a year either, so.
So the question was, how many members did we lose? And I think you mean MLS users is really what you're asking. When we incorporated the SASE database, I don't have an answer to that, but I would say that was a completely different time. The question now is, well, how many, because I look at a number of complicating factors, how many others have joined as MLS only since then that weren't before? There's a lot of complicating factors that, I don't have the answer. I could pull it up if you want to email me later. I'll go back and say, we build this many here and this many here, and you can kind of extrapolate what that approximately what it may be.
My point being is that I had a choice. I could still stay within the list, or I could stay here, and I obviously stayed here. And I think that that's where everybody else at this point is going to have that same decision.
And again, the pricing is completely different now. I mean, there's so many things that are different. But I would say from a budgeting standpoint, like I said, we've counted on pretty much all of our MLS onlys no longer being here. As far as association, we've budgeted some of those members to leave as well. I don't know if they will or not, but it's not exactly the same scenario.
Well, the reason I'm asking this is because isn't there the resale where the National Association is trying to get us to do all of the same fields, all of the same words, all of, it is, let go of the control, folks. We don't have it. We have not had it for a long time. Wait. We have these national guidelines that keep coming down and they keep upping their requirements, which are why we've been doing mergers with associations. This is not a merger of an association. We're simply trying to buy our way onto a different MLS system, right?
Okay, so to paraphrase that, because of the RESO standards that are already out there implemented by the National Association of Realtors, most of our fields are already set up according to that structure, which we are required to do. So, am I getting close? That was a long one. So, we're doing it anyways, deal with it. It's kind of like how I just got, yes, they're taking care of it for us anyway. The changes are happening already anyway. She just says deal with it. Yes? Okay.
So when I hear Virginia won't allow any other realtors in, they don't want to, well, hold on a sec, I'm sorry. When they're not interested, yeah. When I hear that they don't post their cooperating compensation and that they really like having their own information for themselves and that's how they operate, I instantly think, well, that's not in the best interest of their clients. And I don't want to be making a decision based on a fear of competition for myself versus doing what's best for my buyers or sellers. And if it wasn't about all of the politics, which I totally appreciate, and the expense, I totally think we should look at that. There is no good reason not to have one unified database because then we have the same information and it's the best interest of everybody, aside from the competition, which we all have anyway. I'm competing for any listing at any time with 2 to 3 other realtors from my own association. And if an agent from the Twin Cities wants to come up and bring in a beautiful offer for my clients because they don't know the market, awesome. You look at some of the record-setting non-member sales, they're fantastic. So the point is if we can put aside the fear of competition, I think it's a no-brainer. I don't understand why we wouldn't want to have all of our information in one database so that we all have access to it, and I believe more control over it, because right now those third-party systems are getting a bigger and bigger foothold. So that's it.
You're right next to the camera, so I am not paraphrasing that.
And I talk loud.
Claudia, something first, and then I'm going to head over
I
here.
just kind of want to comment on that same thing. And there are some advantages to having our association support us locally. Our association is a concern for some members because we're losing some income. And we may have to change things of what the association can provide. If the association isn't providing these things, it might not make the local realtors as good as they possibly could be. So yes, we have a bigger database, but we do maybe lose some things that the association helps us to make us better realtors. So it's a yin and a yang. I don't think you could say it's gonna be better because we're a bigger database. If our association doesn't do as well and we can't provide the services here, maybe we as realtors suffer. And then how does the consumer benefit from that? So a little bit of both.
Great comments, and that's both of you are on different sides of your business decisions, which is why we're having this meeting, but right in the back. I thought you had your hand up, maybe not?
I did. I was kind of on Casey's point, and then she said at the end there, the idea that our database is really competing against third-party databases that are way bigger, way more funding. And we, if we're stronger together in terms of being a larger database, in terms of being a member of North Star, then we are being split apart.
Okay,
Because
so
of access to information, because of how quickly we can get that information to our clients.
to paraphrase this right now, we're pulling our information out of a smaller database and we're competing against databases that are much larger on the national level. Would it make more sense for us to also then have a bigger database to pull from?
Yeah, and those third-party databases, they don't have a big board, they don't, they just have a small board and they make unilateral decisions. They don't know who to talk about.
And they don't have big boards and they just make unilateral decisions. Good? Okay, hang on a second.
Before we move on to me calling on another person, I just want to make sure that if any of you have any questions over comments, those are preferred right now. Make sure that everybody's going to be able to make an informed vote. Okay, Bob.
I don't feel any threat to our local association by anything we're deciding today. And worrying about what happens 3 years from now, I understand that financially. But if we look back at our own history financially, I think that's not a legitimate concern.
Thank you, Bob.
And look at the real estate industry historically. I mean, 3 years is a long time for the real estate industry. Things change really fast. So who knows what MLS will even look like in 3 years, no matter what we do here.
True. There was somebody had a question. Sorry.
I was just gonna say, comment on yours. You're concerned about what's unknown if we do go forward in 3 years. We don't know what's gonna be happening in 3 years if we stay the same. So it's kind of up in the air either way. But we do get that benefit of the fiduciary duties to our clients.
Did everybody catch that? So you guys can paraphrase. Everything's still up in the air. Whether we go this way, 3 years is still up in the air. Whether we don't go this way, 3 years from now is still up in the air.
Where does the number $150,000 come from?
The question was, where did the number $150,000 come from?
How is their value determined though? That's,
They have an appraisal. It's valued at 3 million, 5%.
how is a company that
Try to my
produces
math. Where is it?
zero profit valued at?
Again, you keep saying that they're producing zero profit. That's not what they're doing. What they're doing is whatever profit they produce, they are giving that back to their membership, which brings their net profit to zero. If they had a $50,000 increase in profits, they take that $50,000 back, they spread it out over the associations that are part of the shareholder agreement, and they make zero money. That's where that zero comes from.
Yeah, but I mean, the value of the company is not just in the stuff that they have, but it's in their potential build. I mean, they have.
Okay, so what is their potential for profit?
Well, they're pretty large. They're the biggest MLS in the state of Minnesota right now.
5 million currently, the best number we use.
So I'm like, well, and they're bringing on Iowa, so that's income to them, and they're not a shareholder. I don't know what other discussions they're potentially having with other associations and MLSs. That's part of the discussion we would be in on if we had a board seat. But we won't be in it if we don't get a board seat, so we won't have any say in that whatsoever.
I can tell you that the task force and the board of directors reviewed all their financials as well. I mean, so they did their due diligence on that front too.
If we did not pay $150,000 and have a space
would we not get the money back for any potential profits?
That's what the discussion was previously, yes. Right now, all of that negotiation is contingent upon passing or failing having the board seat.
Sorry, I think the question is misunderstood.
Okay.
Would the members get paid back in a rebate situation?
Yeah.
So the question was, would the members be paid back in a rebate situation?
Yes.
Yes?
So if we did not have a board seat and we did not have a shareholder interest and we just said, we're not gonna pay the 150, but we're still gonna go ahead and join North Star, we would not get a rebate back.
Correct, we would not be a shareholder.
We would not be a
Shareholders are the only
shareholder,
ones
so
that are
we would
entitled
not
to
be
get that rebate.
shareholder.
I think it's still gonna, I'm sorry, go ahead, Miranda.
So I think the question is, if we're not a shareholder, we mentioned if they have a surplus of funds, they generally rebate it back to the end users. If we're not a shareholder, does that still happen?
Yes,
Okay,
that's
so
the
that
question.
is the question. The answer is, yes, that would still happen.
Okay.
And so, what I've heard from this room is, what about fields? What about control? What about this? What about that, right? And yes, it is only one seat on their board of directors. Yes, it is a minority without question. But I can tell you from meetings that I've had in this building, State Association of the National Association, that there has been many times where a single voice in a boardroom can sway the conversation. I think it happened at our last board meeting.
I think that's why we're here today.
Yes.
So you're right, and the 150 certainly is not an insignificant amount of money. But when I look at that as an investment in making sure that you guys still have your foot in the door in all these discussions and you're still involved. Yes, they have their counsel, and yes, they've been receptive to the other associations who didn't join as shareholders. But when we go back in time, again, there's been two things that our board, and this is my personal knowledge, if it goes back 15 years, our board and our membership has always said, Paragon's not an option, we're not interested. We don't have a say in the board of directors, we're not interested. So is it a lot of money? Yeah, it is. Is it worth it? That's for you guys to decide, but these are the benefits I see of still being part of that conversation. Adam.
So my question is, $150,000, do we have it? If so, where do we get it? And if we don't get the board seat, what do we do with that money that we have provision for?
Question is, do we have $150,000? If not, where do we get it? So on and so forth. So
And if we do, what do we do with it?
about $150,000.
If we don't become a board, if we don't buy the board seat, what do we do with that 150 grand?
That would be, can I answer?
Yes.
Okay. Do we have it? Yes. So I don't think I need to answer this. We actually have it just in our account. So I don't think I need to answer the second. But the third one is, if this doesn't go through and we have this 150 sitting there, what do we do with it? That's gonna be for the board to decide. I've got some ideas, but it would be up to them.
Another bathroom?
I would, well, anyway.
Yeah,
That's up to the board to
you
decide.
go in the back first, and then we'll grab you.
I'm gonna make a comment. So you're kind of going back to the hypothetical about the share of 5% underbid, and that's not part of our vote right now. So hypothetically, if this is not passed, and you guys go back as a board or talk about this as an association, one thing I would like for making this informed decision is to find out for the renewal of Paragon what those fees would be, so we can actually compare apples to apples of the two items.
Okay, paraphrase first. Okay, so the question was, I want to know how much Paragon would cost if we extend it, right?
Yeah.
Okay, Deb, I want to know how much you're going to sell that house for free of contract.
But I mean, isn't that a legitimate question? 'Cause
It is a legitimate question, one that I can't give you an answer to. If I go to Paragon and say, hey, hypothetically, we might be extending our contract, what does that look like?
But it's not gonna
That's not a
double
real
or
answer.
triple, right?
No, it's not going to double.
It shouldn't
Right,
double.
we've been negotiating these
Here's what I
contracts
can,
with Black Knight here.
well, here's what I can say. The contract we have with Black Knight right now has an automatic increase of 2.5% every year while we're in that contract. It's called a CPI increase. So when we, generally speaking, have negotiated the contract in the past, it has gone down somewhat every time from what we're currently paying. We inevitably get back up over that with the 2.5% increase every year. So I think what your main concern is it gonna have a huge fluctuation in our per user cost right now? Is that?
No, I mean, even just that statistic is helpful for us.
Okay.
Because you just said, we're having this conversation because our renewal is coming up.
Well,
That's
it's a factor, but I would say the two things that are really why we're having this conversation or why we're even here is, again, the two things that have always been a roadblock to this discussion in the past. But, I mean, there is a contract there, and every time we go through a contract renewal, we look at all of our options. Okay, and then the front?
I just had a question. I just want to make sure that I'm thinking of this accurate. So over a 3-year period, they're going to give us $270,000. Is that accurate?
Is that what 180 and then is? It's 3 payments of 60 and 2 payments of 45, so yes.
So we'll give 150, so we'll self-fund 55% of that, and they'll give us 45% of that. And then, as I'm hearing from you, we don't really know, but at the end of about 3 years, in order to keep the association going, and it sounds like even you agree that, I'm asking for clarification, even you agree that we would probably have a decrease in membership. So to maintain the association we have, costs would have to go up in order to keep that after that 3 years.
Okay, wow, I'm gonna push, so basically, we're getting a lump sum of money from them over the 2 and 3 year period that kind of offsets the 150 that we're paying, but there's a good chance that that money is gonna disappear in the future, which means that our association fees may have to go up in order to provide the same services that we're currently providing.
Correct, yes.
Yes.
I just want to know if I'm accurate.
Yeah.
So the draft budget, we contingency conservatively to make sure that if we did have a drop in membership, we were prepared to budget for that. We do not have any clue what will happen to our membership. We don't necessarily as a board think we will or won't gain or lose members. We do a budget conservative to make sure that the numbers are hopefully better than we budgeted.
And I'm gonna reiterate, it's been said a couple times, we're pretty positive, we show our worth for the MLS portion in Paragon, which is what we're getting the help from for the 45,000, that will be starting to renegotiate probably when we're 6-8 months into the first year of the contract, so that's gonna be a running
But
thing.
in that scenario, so we're 3 years down the road negotiating a contract, we have one board seat, and we would ask them to provide us an additional 45,000 or something adjusted for inflation to continue so we'd have to rely on the other 94% of realtors that want to sign on to provide us that.
Oh, I don't know how to.
I have a point of clarity on this one.
You have a point of clarity?
Yeah, we're losing $60,000 in revenue for the data share. And they're giving us 60,000, that's a wash. So it's only 90,000, not 200 and some thousand, for 3 years. For 3 years.
For 3 years.
So they're not giving us anything, we're just replacing that.
And I didn't even bring up we in addition to, it sounds like we probably would lose at least some members, we're gonna have a loss of income. I don't hear the other side why, I know that you budgeted with that in mind, but I don't hear the other side how.
So the point of clarification of the discussion is the $60,000 once a year for the next 3 years is basically a wash for the amount that we're losing in data feeds to the amount that they're paying us, okay? Where do I go from there?
Danielle is where we go from there.
Oh, okay.
So I understand that Paragon needs to be renegotiated regardless. Does that mean if we enter North Star, we will do the same negotiation with Paragon?
The question is, do we have to do the same negotiation with Paragon if we merge with North Star? No, because we are not running the MLS anymore. They will do the negotiation.
But they currently have no relationship with Paragon, and so they would.
Okay, so we have to paraphrase because we have a camera. So the first question was.
Just let's get to the second one. So do
Second
we
one.
already have a relationship with Paragon, or are we going to expire and renegotiate under North Star?
Okay, North Star would be doing the negotiations with Paragon. North Star currently is already in negotiations. It's starting the platform with Paragon. And they have been for quite a long time, which is why this was one of the reasons that we delved back into this, because Paragon was an option for you guys to keep, because we know you love it.
Miranda.
Yes. So there is a contract for the North Star MLS to offer Paragon as a front end right now. They are doing that with or without us.
Okay,
Okay.
that's what I wanted to know.
Yeah, and the planned implementation for that is Q1 of next year, which is why all the discussions we've had, we wouldn't be merging until Q1 of next year, because it seems like a suicide mission to have you merge into Matrix at all. So we're waiting for that.
Okay.
I have a question about the staff support and what the staff here would be doing to support the MLS. If the MLS is gonna be run by North Star and everybody down there is negotiating and controlling, what does the staff support in the LSAR look like?
Okay, question is on what is the staff support going to look like if we do the merger?
Correct.
Okay.
Miranda.
Basically the same it does now with a couple exceptions. So if you have an issue with the MLS, your call is still here.
Okay.
If you have a suggestion or question or whatever it happens to be, it's still here. Now, North Star does have a help desk. You can call them if you want to, but I know you don't like them. You like us more, right?
I haven't dealt with that. Verdict's still up.
Trust, verdict's still out.
We're here for
But that said, I would say there's two main, there's some background managing the database stuff. We won't be doing North Star. You don't care about that so much. But the two things that you probably do care about more are the enforcement, which we've already talked about. Okay, now you can always still call us and talk to us about it. We're not the authority, but we're a liaison, and we can certainly, my understanding is they're pretty receptive to associations that talk to them and say, hey, we know Nick, he was in the boundary waters for 2 weeks and this contract came in and there was nothing he could have done about it, whatever. That's thing one. Thing two, which you might care about, is the data feeds, the IDX feeds, that sort of thing would be obviously through them as well.
So that's for our websites.
Correct, yeah. So those I would say are the two main things that you guys are really be affected by.
The data feeds for the websites and everything else for brokerages is gonna be handled through North Star down there.
Right.
But, okay, so I call into the office, I got my problem, it's not inputting correctly, this and that. Is the staff here able to resolve that problem, or does that get now sent down to the cities for resolution and come back up here?
It depends what it is. Most of it will probably still be able to resolve here. If it's something that's a, database issue, system issue, or whatever. Let's see, what's an example? We do the same thing kind of now. If there's something in Paragon that's not working right, and you may hear us say, hey, we can't actually change this part of the software because it's hard built into it.
Yeah.
We do already act as a liaison to that to fix that for you. You don't talk to Paragon support generally. Same with like the portals or showing time or whatever. So it's possible we still have to, talk to them and get something fixed through them, whatever it might be. But most of the issues we're able to solve in-house.
Okay. And we'd still be able to do that.
Oh, wait, I think he's directing. Hang on a second.
When you're considering a reduction in membership because of this merger, is most of that membership reduction basically MLS only membership? Or is it full-blown LSAR membership?
Okay, so the question is, when we're discussing a loss of potential MLS membership, where is that potential loss coming from? Is it only MLS users, or is it potentially our own MLS users? Correct? Yeah.
Association.
Association members.
Most of it is MLS only, although we have also budgeted for a loss of association members as well.
Casey.
Speaking of MLS, so are there timeframes similar? So like, if I want to change a status and I have to do it within 2 days, and the fine if I don't is whatever, are the North Stars exactly the same? Would there be some changes or some more serious repercussions or any of that kind of stuff?
I think she said Amanda, you do more of that than I do.
They're basically they're very similar.
I honestly, I don't even know the difference in rules. It is a pain knowing 2 sets of rules. I think, is Duluth 3 days for input? Is it 2 days?
2.
Okay, so it is 2 days for North Star as well. I do know, Frank was talking about their fine process. Their fine process is actually a lot more forgiving than ours, just putting it out there. I put it in, I put one listing in 3 days because I thought it was 3 days. They said, hey, dummy, and I went, oh, no.
Yeah, it's not slander or staff.
They emailed me and said, hey, and I went, oh, my bad, and they went, well, it's your first time, no big deal, you know, just remember the rules. The rules are very similar,
And
but
they respond fast.
they do, honestly, they respond to me almost immediately. Yes.
So, just so I have this, and it kind of goes back to what Frank says, tell me if I'm reading this correctly, you know, the 60,000 is a wash. So really, for those members that are concerned about, gee, if we don't like this in 3 years and we want to take our data feed back and get back out of it, they're gonna give us 45,000 back for 2 years, so we're gonna get 90 of our 150 back. So really, the cost would be 60,000 to pull out at 3 years from now to say, oh, this was a big mistake. If I'm reading this correctly, then we wouldn't have the mortgage payment of roughly 30,000 a year. So, I mean, financially, as an association, to me, it doesn't seem like it would be this huge hit because you get your data feedback if you decided that, which I don't think would happen, but I'm just trying to think. Some thoughts that might
She's
be
got
going
her, oh
through.
my gosh, no
Okay.
answers. Paraphrase first.
So the question was, it's been stated that the 60 is a wash, and it is. I mean, right now, the people getting or paying for those fees are paying North Star and they're paying us. So they're saving a bunch of money on your websites. Remind them of that if this goes through on whatever fees you're paying them. The question is then, well, let's say in two years, or the comments, I don't know. Let's say in 2 years it doesn't work out. We would have collected 90 to support this system, 45 a year. So that's not as bad as losing 150. Okay, so that's generally true. I've had some people ask like, hey, if we do this, how long are we in for? My answer is forever. You're in forever. Is it possible, let's say in 2 years it's just horrible and you guys you're like, nope, we're gonna start our own MLS again. This is not working out well for us. Can you do that? Yes. Is it incredibly difficult? Yes. I would ask you, is divorce fun? I don't think so. So consider it like that.
In the back?
I wasn't quite done answering if that's okay. The other thing I want you to consider is when I say it's not fun, there is a lot of data and moving parts and that sort of thing that you would need to then pull back out and put into basically a new system. That's not free. I don't know what the amounts are, because of course I don't know what we might be charged by a vendor in 3 years to do that. I would say that would be at minimum $10,000, and that is the low bar. That is seriously the low bar. So
Way in the back first.
I just want to say that in terms of MLS policing, I've been a member of both North Star and LSAR since the cities before it came up here. And up here, we kind of police ourselves. If we see an issue with the listing, we typically report it ourselves. Down there, they have North Star has no policing. If you make a mistake, you will know about it right away. With a sign in the listing photo, you'll get a call. If you have a geographical pin that's wrong, you'll get it in the list. And they're very, very tight on how their listings look and how their wording is. Put a third-party website in there, you'll get it in the list right away. So there is that. They're policing pretty strict.
So to paraphrase the comment is that, right, we police ourselves in our MLS. If we see something wrong that one of our fellow agents has done, we notify, we can take care of it on that end. North Star does their own policing. When they find something wrong, they notify you pretty much right away. A lot of their stuff is done electronically with scripts. It's not like they've got a bunch of watchdogs out there going through every MLS list, but they have automatic stuff that will automatically email if you do something wrong, you're gonna get an email from them.
which is a great thing.
Right, what's wrong with that?
Our data is accurate.
That's good.
Kudos.
Okay, wait,
How much money, all aspects of our MLS, how much money does that generate per year?
what was the question?
How much money do all aspects of our MLS generate per year?
Like the IDX and.
Lots.
Okay.
Yeah, let me show you.
For the association, right, Mike?
Yes, for our association.
For our association or North Star?
LSAR.
Okay.
Yeah, that'd be weird.
Here's some money.
All right, so here's our budget. In case you're curious, this is all posted on your
Well,
website. So let's look at, yeah, we went over there too. So our budget this year for MLS was $395.
Okay.
We actually brought in $410. That's all this first column category here. I will say, I mean, there's some ancillary income, that sort of thing that comes along with it, but
So you're saying our net profit?
no, I'm not saying net profit.
No.
Back up there,
So what
kid.
is-
I just said that was our income.
You asked what the income was for the
Can we
MLS.
talk about net profit or is that?
Sure, yeah. Go right down to the
That was
bottom.
Now we're going to net profit. Net income.
So for this year, about 80.
80,000 for our MLS?
This is for your association.
All
This is for all of your
associations. You know, I think the other question you might be asking is, on that top of that sheet, it says MLS, income from the MLS. How much of that $410,000 will go with that?
Okay, remember, we have the income from it and we have the expense from it. So you wanna show what the expense of it is?
Hold on, answer the question on the income, please. How much of that 410 goes away with the merger?
You need to know what the expense is that we're paying for the income that we're receiving before you can determine how much of that would go away.
So let's back up this train. I think there's some confusion here a little bit. We're still billing for MLS. You still pay us for MLS.
Yeah.
So we still have MLS revenue, right? Okay, so this is our current budget. Let me go to what the draft budget was for, that was presented to you in all of your materials. So that has 61, that's still left over from the other thing. Oh, this is 461.
Yep,
That's right?
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, right. Thank you. Okay, so you see the fines is 0.
Yep.
I have 61 in there. 61. I'm not sure, so it should be the 60 really from that left over. But, so we're still doing, I have MLS support in there. Oh, okay.
Yeah, we added in the numbers that we're gonna get from,
350 is our MLS billings. It says 61, it should be 60. I don't know why I have 61 in there. I know, right? For the IEX, and then you'll see that 45 that we talked about at the top. And it's just fees 5,000, that's if the brokerage joins. So that is our income. If you will scroll down to the expenses, so 461.
yeah, all the way up there.
Further?
It's right here.
There you go.
MLS expensive.
177?
So.
Okay.
177?
I think what Mike's getting at is what of those income brackets are going away?
Really the only one that, well, again, IDX is being replaced, right? So that's still on there. The one that's going away.
3 years, right,
Oh, right,
45.
yeah, that would be.
Then those are at the top.
Year.
This MLS support and this IDX feeds, which should be 60. Those two could be going away.
That
Well, the 60 for sure.
60 is going away. The 45 is the one that's negotiable in the future.
So there's
They're just giving us our income back
$105,000.
105,000 a year.
Yep.
And then after that, it's not there. And the 45 is.
Yeah, they're giving us the 60 for the 3 years, and after that, it's not gonna be there.
So we could lose 105,000 per year after 3 years, and then any loss of membership is on top of that.
So we could lose $105,000 a year per year, and the loss of any membership is on top of that, is what the comment is.
And that's not money that's being replaced anywhere else after 3 years.
We don't
Not right
know that.
We don't know that.
We don't budget 3 years in the future.
Might be for me.
Also, what's on top of that, Michael, is that when you said 62,000 per year approximately from the IDX fees, that income we get as an association, that also is what we're using.
Well, it's being replaced. It's being replaced at this point in time.
For 3 years. For 3 years.
Temporarily.
Correct, but that's what we just said. If you take the numbers, we're potentially losing $105,000 a year. We just keep rehashing
Yeah,
that
for 3 years,
over and
and
again.
we're gonna be doing real estate.
Wait, Pat, behind you, sorry.
But when you look at that $350,820 that we're getting in for MLS fees, what are we paying to North Star for servicing our MLS? That number gets reduced almost in half.
Yeah, that was the
doesn't it?
expense portion that we showed you.
Yep, so really, income wise that we get to keep and utilize, we're getting half of that to be utilized here in this area.
I'm sorry, I don't think I understand the question.
Specifically, we're taking in 351,000 in MLS
She's
fees.
asking about expenses.
Yes. And you reduce that figure by what we're paying North Star, we're only keeping half of that.
Oh,
Whereas now,
Yeah.
So
we're
just
keeping
get
it all.
with the MLS.
Yeah,
MLS
so we're not
expenses.
actually, no, we're just, so I think what you're asking is, how much, I think what you're asking is, how much do we directly pay North Star per user? Is that correct?
I wanna know what we're paying North Star
Sure,
out of those
it would
MLS
be
fees that we're
20
taking in.
sure, $25 per user per month.
Then what's that 176 total
That's what
MLS?
That's what we're paying out.
That's what that is.
That's what I said.
And so the difference between the MLS fees and the expenses, we get to keep that profit still?
That's MLS.
That's how we continue to support what we're doing.
Currently, what's the difference? So currently, what do we pay for this
Okay,
budget?
then that's back to, the fees. No,
I
that's
think I'm
back-
wondering what that could change.
So that, it's a more complicated question, because when we join North Star, they also pay for like showing time in the forums and stuff like that. So, yeah, so, all of those are on separate budget items currently in our.
Is our black knight cost roughly would be similar to what we're gonna pay?
No, it's more.
Black knight is more.
No, North Star is more.
So we will
Yes.
have a net decrease and we want money to keep from the fees.
Yeah.
Yes. People want to know what that number is.
Oh, well, we're increasing, okay, so we're increasing our MLS expenses pretty significantly as well. So I don't know about percentages exactly, about what portion are we keeping here and what portion are we keeping here, but extrapolate from budgets.
Well, like, 45 for annual, that goes down, right? That 60,000 right next, is that from to us?
Comes to LSAR, yeah.
Yeah, so that's local, right? I'm just curious.
Yeah, that money comes back,
Yeah, so
that money comes
that would
back to,
be-
yes, locally to our association, that money is coming back to us,
So
correct?
then, it would not be local after that, correct?
We're giving up that income, and then in order to, we will also have higher fees to have the new tax.
What's our time frame?
We are, it was technically scheduled till noon, and it is noon oh
It is
eight.
at 12:08, so,
Whatever we need to do.
I know, Wendy, did you wanna make a comment? You good?
Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you guys very much. Voting starts at 1.
That doesn't mean
We
we
didn't
have
have
questions.
a meeting.
Yes.
We didn't.
You didn't show us
Yeah.
that. You're gonna get an email with a link. You click on the link, I believe you log in with your nurse number, and then you will go to the vote, and you will have 2 choices, yay or nay. That goes until tomorrow. It goes until Friday at 1 o'clock. 48 hours.